Morning, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about elimination. It's the third way of solving a system of equations. And sometimes kids find this the easiest way. And there's a lot of applications after this. With elimination, you can actually solve systems of like 3 equations with 3 unknowns a lot easier. So the objective of this video is to solve a system of equations using this method, this elimination method. This elimination method involves adding the 2 equations together. Now, there are 4 simple steps that I'm always going to be referring to. So the first step in solving for elimination is always to get opposite numbers on one of the variables. Okay, so that means, like here for example 1, do you see that this is a -6 and this is a +6? Those are opposite numbers. So step 1 is done. Step 2 is to add the equations together. Okay? Step 2. So in example 1, all I'm going to do is add these together. So I add like terms. 5x plus 3x is 8x, -6y plus 6y is 0, no y's anymore, equals -32 plus 48, that's 16. So what I can do is the 0, I don't care about that, 8x equals 16. Okay, step 3, solve for the variable left over. Okay, divide by 8, x equals 2. Okay, now that's step 3. Step 4 is always to plug it back in. Okay, so I'm going to take this x equals 2, and I'll plug it in, let's say here. Okay, actually, I'm not going to plug it in here because this one has negatives in it. I want to plug it into something with positives, so it's easier. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 times 2 plus 6y equals 48. 6 plus 6y equals 48. Subtract 6 on both sides. 6y equals 42. Divide by 6, y equals 7. So the answer to the example 1 is 2, 7. And that is the first example. For example number 2, I can tell you that it's the same process as example number 1, but now instead of having opposite signs on the y's, now I have opposite signs on the x's. And I'll just tell you the answer. I want you guys to show the work. It's going to be -2 and 4 as the answer to that example 2. This is example 3. So it's slightly different. So I have to go through my steps number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I need to get opposite numbers on one of the variables. Now, 9 and 6, those aren't even close to the same numbers. Okay, but 3 and 3, those are the same numbers. Now I gotta make them opposite. So some people say that you can subtract these. I don't like to subtract personally because oftentimes kids will screw up the negatives and positives. That's the biggest thing. What I do is I say, okay, this is 3, this is 3. I need one of them to be negative. So if I change, let's say, this bottom one to negative, well, really, if I change 1 to negative, I gotta change the signs on all of these. Now I have -3x, -6y, and -30. That way, you know, if this was a minus, let's say, and I just change the sign, now it's a plus. Okay, it's easier to keep track of signs if I just change one to negative. Now I can go to step number 2 add those together, those x's get eliminated. That's why we call this elimination. 9 minus 6 is 3y equals 36 minus 30 is 6. So y equals 2. I then take that and I'm going to plug it in. 3x plus 9 times 2 equals 36. 3x plus 18 equals 36. So 3x equals 18. So x equals 6. So my answer to this is 6, 2. That is my answer. So this is example 4, and I wanted to give you guys these answers. So it's 14.8 and 6.8. I apologize, there is some decimals, but we gotta get used to that sort of stuff. And I just want to give you some advice. It's exactly like example 3, except for, do you see how this is negative 12 already? So if I am trying to change these 10 x's, and I gotta change one of them to a negative, I would choose to change this top one by a negative so that I get that to a positive, okay? Generally, I try to use as little negatives as possible, and this kind of helps that out. Okay, so it should be 14.8, 6.8. So if I multiply this equation by 5, I will get this to be a negative 10. So what I do is I multiply each one of these. Each one. Okay? I have to multiply everything in that top equation by 5. So I create a new equation that's negative 10x minus 20y equals negative 10. As long as I multiply everything, I'm good. So now I can add the equations together because now I have opposites. Okay, 25 minus 20, that's 5y. Those get canceled out, and that is 10. So y equals 2. Now I can plug it back in. Okay, I'm going to take this one because there are a whole lot of negatives up there. Okay, so I got 10x plus 25 times 2 equals 20. So 10x plus 50 equals 20. 10x equals negative 30. So x equals negative 3. So the answer to example 5 is negative 3, 2. So this is example 6, exactly like example 5. But I'm going to give it a little hint. Well, number 1, there's the answer. And number 2, I'm just looking, okay. Again, I have to get the opposite numbers. So the trick is 4 and 7, there's no easy multiple that I can do. But there is between 2 and 12. Now again, both of these are positive. So if I'm going to change this one to a 12, I need this to be a negative 12. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that top equation and I'm going to multiply each one, again, I'm stressing the each, by negative 6 to create that new equation. That way, this becomes a negative 12, and then I can follow through the steps, and hopefully you can get negative 2 and 5. So this is example 7, and it's getting harder and harder as we keep going through the examples. So again, my first step is always to get opposite numbers on one of the variables. 3 and 2, 4 and 5, there's no easy multiple there between any of them like the previous examples. But what I can do is, if I can multiply one equation, I can also multiply the other one. So I can multiply both. Now, I'm going to make it easy on myself because this is a positive number and this is a negative number. I'm just going to try to make these x's as opposites. So what's a good multiple between 3 and 2? 6. Okay, so how do I make 3x into 6x? Well, I would have to multiply this top equation by 2. And when I multiply that top equation by 2, I gotta multiply everything. And I stress the word everything. That is the one error that students make all the time. Okay, so I'm gonna multiply that top equation by 2. So I'm gonna get 6x plus 8y equals 52. This bottom equation, I need that to be a negative 6. So all I'm going to do is multiply this bottom equation by 3. So now I get negative 6x plus 15y equals 63. Now I have opposite numbers on the x's. Add those together, x's are going to cancel. 23y equals 115. I'm then going to divide by 23, y equals 5. Now we gotta take that 5, I'm going to plug it back in. Now, I can plug it back in here, doesn't matter. I can plug it back up here into the original. The original is probably easier because it's lower numbers. So I'm going to do 3x plus 4 times 5 equals 26. 3x plus 20 equals 26. 3x equals 6. X equals 2. So the answer to example 7 is 2, 5. All right, this gets a little bit more complicated. So this is example 8. So again, it's that harder one where you gotta multiply both of them. I'm gonna give you a little hint. This 4 and this 3. I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna multiply this top equation by a negative 3, and this bottom equation by a positive 4. That way, it will create opposite signs on one of the variables, and then I can add them together, and then should get 8 and 7.